Okay, so I've just finished a very long session with one of my clients, coaching clients, and the question that she asked me is, what happens if I get asked the question, tell us about a time you had a problem at work or you made a mistake. Okay, so that is a very, very common question that comes up in an interview, and what you need to understand is that in interviews that there's going to be a balance. So they're going to ask you about the good stuff, and they're going to also ask you about the bad stuff, because they want to know, listen, can this person cope in our environment? You know, they're going to make mistakes sometimes, there's pressure, etc., etc. And will this person be able to actually move through that, and how easily? So here's my 3 tips on how to answer that specific question on tell us about a time you made a mistake at work. All right, so the first way to answer that question is not to make it current. So what a lot of people do is when they come into the interview and they say, oh, well, last week I did this wrong, or last month I did that wrong, I made this mistake at work, big mistake. Okay, so you want to pull it back. And small trick, talk about at the beginning of my career, when I started working, I wasn't that confident in my meetings with executives, and that was something that I needed to work on. So you just pull it back into your career, into a few years back. Don't make it current, because immediately the interviewer is going to think, gosh, man, this person's got so much experience, and now they're admitting that they're having issues like last week or last month. So that's the first thing. The second item, the way that you can solve that problem is don't use an example that is completely ridiculous. Oh, the entire project came to a standstill. Oh, my manager and myself had a major fallout and a personality problem. Okay, the bigger you make that issue in your interview, the bigger problem it is going to be for you. If you've got an HR manager sitting in the interview with you, they're going to grill you, they're going to kill you. They're just going to want to know, okay, but how did that happen, and what did you do to do that? And don't give them the rope. Remember, the interview is about you telling the person that's interviewing you about how good you are. You want to brag a little bit. You don't want to be sitting in the trenches trying to dig yourself out of a hole where you're talking about these massive problems. So keep your example manageable. And things that are manageable are things like, for instance, 10 years ago when I started my career, I wasn't confident. What I like to do with those types of things is make the negative thing a positive. So say, oh, I was maybe a little bit too over-enthusiastic with my communication. That's great. You're an over-enthusiastic person. Fantastic. That's not necessarily a bad thing. So you can twist it a little bit around there as well. That's a sales technique that you can use for that. The third thing is give them the solution. Okay, you did something wrong, but you solved it. Okay, so when I started out my career, my confidence wasn't good with communication to my fellow project managers, and I needed to work on that. How did you work on it? I went to go and see a coach, and they coached me on my mentor helped me to coach me on my confidence in my communication, and I also started using a few software tools with my communication to help me become more proactive with regards to written and spoken communication with my project management team. Boom, there we go. There's the answer. Give them the answer to how you solved it. Otherwise, what they think is oh, the person's still sitting with that problem now. They've still got a communication problem. If you don't give them how you solve that problem, they're going to just automatically assume that you're still sitting with that issue. Okay. Practice these problem questions. Get a few in your bag, in your interview bag, to practice, that you can just repeat, and you can just off the tip of your tongue, you're able to actually mention these things, and stick to these 3 rules, and you'll see your interviews are going to be much, much smoother, and you're not going to be sitting in the trenches trying to dig yourself out of that problem. You're going to be talking about the positive stuff. Good luck with your interviews, and especially good luck with your job search.